People often only see the decisions that you've made and not the choices that you had. And, as you go about your everyday life, if you're in management, especially because that's the field that I can speak to, there are going to be 9,000 decisions that you make in any given week. And that might be a little bit of exaggeration, but sometimes it feels like that and some. And too often, the other managers that are following you, the other people who are following your lead, they only look at the decision that you made and not the choices that you had. And I can't tell you how many times in the course of my career, I would make a decision and then get nothing but heat from the people around me when they weren't there when I had to make the decision. They didn't see the choices that were in front of me. They were just disappointed in what the ultimate decision was. And that was stressful and it was frustrating. And I think that, at times it shook me as a leader, because I felt like I was losing their faith and their focus and losing their motivation to follow. And then I realized that at the end of the day, again, we all have to make decisions and we've got to live by those decisions. We've got to stay strong on those decisions and to know that at any given time, a decision can be taken out of context. And you just have to understand that it's never going to be a perfect world. And so you've got to hold true to the decisions that you make in your professional life, in your personal life, and know that, there's a quote I heard it on Ted Lasso where I think it's Walt Whitman who says it, but Ted on Ted Lasso says that that you should be curious and not judgmental. And most of the people who criticize your decisions are just there to be judgmental. They're not there to be curious and to understand. And that's okay. Ultimately, at the end of the day, you're the successful one who's there to making those decisions. So just remember that you are smart, you're talented, you're a capable individual. And when those decisions are made and other people pass judgment on them, they should have just been curious. So hopefully that helps you today in some form or fashion. Just remember, it's always about progress over complacency. Hey, welcome to the Friday edition of the Batmandrew Podcast, and we are away from 2022. We're diving into 2023 in this little short series, and there's a lot to unpack. 2023 was a pretty busy year for my family and I'm excited to be able to share that with you guys. So, first things first, I talked about in the last video, I was really struggling wrestling with my demons and the death of my mom, and I threw myself into work. And although there were a couple of things that happened with the family, some really highlights of the year that I'm excited to share. The fact of the matter is that I spent a lot of 2023 trying to process my shit. And, work was the beneficiary of that because I buried my head. So 2023 professionally, I was still working for Rally House. I was already promoted as a district manager. I had 6 stores. I had 4 in Oklahoma, 2 in southern Missouri. And we knew that there were a couple more stores coming, but we didn't know exactly. I didn't know exactly how much was on the horizon. So we opened up 8 stores in 2023 across 3 different states. And through the work portion of it, there were a lot of decisions that I had to make as a district manager to grow that fast. Like you're talking about, we had 6 stores, we were opening 8. That's a lot of growth. And, I said this before, I just don't know. And I'm pretty arrogant, I think a lot of myself, but, I just don't know if they could have found anyone else who would have been able to do what I did while still performing at the level that we were. So, in 2023, we ended up being the top performing district in Rally House, and it was so controversial. Everyone was saying, "Oh, the reporting's wrong," all this kind of stuff. But we went from 6 stores to 14 stores, and maintained such a level of productivity that I was super proud of the team for doing. And in that process, they opened up a new market in Arkansas, and I volunteered to go open the market. I was familiar with Arkansas because of when I worked for Lids, but in large part, I wanted to continue to bury my head and work and get away from things. And so I agreed to take over Arkansas. And so there were 3 stores that were open up in Arkansas, 1 in southern Missouri in Springfield, and then 4 in Oklahoma, 4 more in Oklahoma, including the first Tulsa store. So there was so much opportunity for me to be able to be on the road, and it helped, but it hurt, right? Because on one hand, I was able to kind of forget about some of the hardships I were going through and be able to isolate myself, and that helped. But again, I just went back into the same old habits where I just kept putting work in front of everything else, in front of my family, and it sucked for them. And so there were some things that were highlighted, and I'll talk about the positives, but this was the year that I really realized that work wasn't taking away from my family. I was giving my time to them. And there's a difference there, right? Like, no one should be faulted. No company should be faulted for asking more and more out of an individual when they're willing to just give it up. And I was like, on top of opening those stores, I ran a few special projects for Rally House as well, and I gave them everything I had in 2023. And regardless of the time it took away from my family, professionally, I'm proud of what was accomplished. I think that it was a grand feat at a time that the company was growing phenomenally, and although I wish that I could have some of that time back to get back to my family, I'm super proud of what I did and what I was able to accomplish and what I was able to see other people accomplish. You're talking about managers who we promoted into manager roles who started out as sales associates and things like that. Just incredibly fortunate to have a lot of talent that showed up in 2023. And so away from work, because I just, again, like, I poured so much into it and super proud of what was accomplished. But if you're interested in seeing some of those highlights, feel free to check in my LinkedIn page, and you can see, because I posted a lot of what all that looked like. So let's talk about some non-work highlights. My wife is a huge Aurora fan. She loves Sleeping Beauty. It's her favorite Disney princess. And I was able to take her to Disneyland for her to be able to see the the Sleeping Beauty castle for the first time. And that was amazing. She cried, and I will forever make fun of her for that. But she had, I hope it was a trip that she'll always remember. We went for her birthday right at the beginning of January. And it was also a good escape from, because, again, I was still dealing with, it had been just over a year that my mom had passed away. So I'm glad we got to go to Disneyland. There were so many cool highlights. And one of the biggest was obviously, again, her seeing the Sleeping Beauty castle for the first time. But I didn't realize how, I guess, immersed the Marvel campus, Avengers campus could be. And so me being a nerd, like, I loved every second of being in an Avengers campus. Cars Land was really cool to see. Pixar Pier was really cool to see. Actually, Pixar Pier, maybe the funniest part about that trip for me was, so my wife doesn't do roller coasters. She doesn't do like scary rides. And so we rode the Ferris wheel, and I wanted to have a little bit of more excitement. So I wanted the cart that kind of swung a little bit back and forth. But as we were watching it, like this thing was swinging super big. And I was like, there's got to be people in there like making it swing. Like, don't worry about that. We're fine. So she's like, okay. So we get into it. It starts looping around. And when it got to the top and the cart started to swing, it was such a big momentum shift. My wife freaked the fuck out. And all I could think about was she is going to hate me forever for bringing her on this. And like it was, honestly, it kind of rattled me a little bit. I wasn't expecting for it to have such a drastic drop. And so it was a lot of fun. I still just remember seeing her face in the panic. She was not happy. But going to be able to go into Avengers Campus, seeing all the characters, experiencing all of that, like Disney is definitely the most magical place on earth. It's the most fucking expensive place on earth too. I'll tell you that. Like that trip wasn't cheap, but it was a fun trip. And so we got to do that the first part of 2023, and then again I dove into work head first. But a couple of other things that kind of stood out for me in 2023 was the growth, I guess, of Grayson. We were worried for a while that he wasn't developing his speech very well. He wasn't talking a whole lot, and in 2023 that started to change. Like he just wouldn't shut the fuck up, and he started getting bigger and bigger, and his third birthday party was a Paw Patrol themed birthday party, and it was when I started realizing I needed to appreciate those moments a little bit more, and to be more involved and active in those moments. And we're almost 2 years removed from my mom passing. I'm feeling better towards the end of 2023, but in large part because I spent most of the year ignoring my problems, and then when they would arise, just saying fuck it, like I'm gonna be better. And one of the things that helped was being able to immerse myself a little bit more artistically in my photography. And the highlight photo shoot of 2023 for me was there's a cosplayer in Oklahoma City. Her name's Candace, and she is one of the nicest people in the world. The cosplay community here in Oklahoma does not deserve her. She's amazing. And she does a cosplay of Rapunzel from Tangled. And so they were having in Edmond, Oklahoma, a lantern festival. And we had talked about, hey, why don't we go out there and do a photo shoot? That'd be great, right? If you've seen the movie Tangled, then you know how that would kind of match in well with the photo shoot. So we went out there, had an amazing time, got a lot of great photos. But when the Lantern Festival kicked off, and they they don't fly. That's the only difference, is that they don't send them in the air, but they send them out to the pond to let them float through the pond. And once they started to do that, the song from Tangled, I See the Light, started playing as we're doing our photo shoot. And it was just such a cool moment. And one of the things that I love most about when people cosplay is when adults and kids can experience something cool. And the amount of people that had their attention on Candace while she's getting rid of her lantern onto the water as Rapunzel, we're doing the photo shoot, and then the song from the movie was playing. It was a really, really cool moment. And those are the kind of things that really helped me out when I was struggling, was experiencing such uniqueness and cool stuff like that. And so maybe it was one of those things where you had to be there. I don't know if it sounds as special as I'm talking about it as it was in the moment, but it was so cool. It was so unique. And I'm not going to lie, I'm not going to forget about that. So 2023, in a nutshell, was me working my ass off to ignore all my problems. But then my priorities, I told you, a couple videos ago that my priorities are really different now than what they were even like this time last year. And the end of 2023 was what really started to do that for me. Me realizing that I needed to be better, be a better dad, be a better husband, be a better manager, be a better leader, whatever it was. I just needed to be better. And I wasn't, because I was still struggling mentally. And I wasn't telling anybody. And again, that was still the problem. I didn't feel better, like I was actually making progress till 2024, when I actually opened up to my wife about some of my struggles. So, but yeah, 2023, some highlights, was getting better. I think at this point, COVID was in the rearview mirror, and things were really starting to truck and move. A lot of great accomplishments, a lot of great things to kind of look back on. So 2023, definitely better than 2022. Thank you guys. I appreciate you listening. Have a good day.